what happens at the PAB in terms of whether a student is allowed to resit? Is there a number of credits that there's a maximum that they'll allow them to resit? And another question that we get a lot is, how long do I get to do these resits? I mean, is there, is it when I get the letter, what do I do? Do I contact my program leader? Is it only 3 or 4 weeks? Why is it only 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, so because of the timescales, it is only usually 3 or 4 weeks. If I was talking about mid-June, the resit deadline for coursework is usually about the 3rd or 4th week in July, no later than that, because straight after that are the resit exams. And the reason why we've got to have that compressed scale is because those resit exams then need to be marked and need to be presented at a resit board, which happens usually in late August. Now, you might think, oh, well, if the exams are finishing early August, the boards are late August, and staff, students will have no sympathy with staff over this. They need to take a break as well. So they are very often doing the marking when they're on leave, so that they're actually having to do this to meet this compressed scale of timeframes. And it just means that for me, what I usually tell my students for my module that approach me and say, oh, I've got a 36, so I haven't passed this module, what's going to happen to me at the board? And I usually say to them, I make the resit assessment available early June, usually first week of June, so it's before the boards have started. And I say to the student, if it's made available to you, and it doesn't have to be prior to the board, you could start looking at it with the possibility that you might be asked to do the resit. Now, of course, if you're told all's good, actually we're compensating you, so you don't have to do it, well, what have you lost? Not a great deal. And actually the university has helped you to move on to the next level, the next stage. Even if you have to do the resit, well, you've already had an inkling as to what you have to do. And I take that approach, and my students do usually very well in the resits because they do want to look at see what that resit assessment is. So there is a 3-4 week time period of resits. That's the official period. And some staff do try, if they can, make the resit assessment available to students to look at. But the students are under no obligation to look at it until they've got their results letter.
Just to clarify that, there's a limit on the number of credits that you allow a student to actually resit. So if a student's failed 90 credits out of 120, that student will not be resitting 90 credits in a resit period, or is that correct?
I wish it was that simple. If a student has extenuation, where they may be deferred in some of the modules, then it's not a simple matter of counting up the modules. If a student has got very close in passing most of the modules, but has to do a resit of one assessment in maybe 3 of the modules, they might be permitted to do that. So we're looking at scale of work that needs to be done. We're looking at extenuation. We're looking at many other things as well to make us think that if we gave the student the opportunity, would they be able to succeed? Okay, because there's absolutely no point in telling a student that they've got resits in all of these assessments if we feel that the student can't achieve them.
Okay, and just one other question on that vein from last year. What happens to a student if they do the resit and they've still got outstanding credits? Would there be another opportunity to carry over into the next academic year like there was last year?
So there won't be a September 2nd resit period this year. Okay, so it will just be the resit period that I outlined in July, August. And if the student's still at the August board, August/September, because some of them happen even in very early September, if the student hasn't passed still, then one of 2 decisions will be made. One is, well, one of 3 decisions. One is they could compensate at that stage if the student was in that region that I indicated earlier, or they could ask the student to come back and redo that module next year because they have failed it, or they could, in exceptional cases, again, consider proceeding with intermediate standing, and that is where they allow the student to carry that failure into the next year together with their other new modules. And I should stress that this is the discretion of the PAB and can't be challenged by the student. If the PAB with an external present feels that it is not in the interests of the student to give them that proceed with intermediate standing, because let's be very clear, you are saddling the student with even more work than they do in a normal year. And we take those decisions very carefully and very seriously. So we will be looking at those, and rarely we might be employing them. Prior to the pandemic, I think we had maybe 2 or 3 cases in my faculty in a year. Okay, so that proceed with intermediate standing is only in really a small number of cases.